Okay, so welcome everybody. Good to have you here today. Let's get started, and I'll invite you guys to come into a shape to kind of get centered and grounded. And I am feeling a little more that restorative mode today. So if you want to start there with me, you're welcome to. I'm going to take child's pose. I've got that messy blanket on the mat because Finnegan is busy there, so I don't want to disturb him. He's doing his restorative already. So you can come into child's pose if you want to do that with props, you can. If you're more comfortable seated or in some other shape, that's totally fine. We're just going to find our breath and then we'll do a bit of movement and then we'll come back down. So we'll see if we can kind of balance out our energies of feeling a bit depleted and also needing a little bit of circulation of energy through our bodies. So I'm going to let Finnegan stay nice and cozy right where he is for now. So if you're taking child's pose with me, your knees could be nice and wide, close together. Maybe you've got a prop like a bolster you could put in between your thighs. You don't need it, but it's nice to have. And just kind of snuggle in. So one of the things that I've been really feeling lately is my adrenal glands. So that's this area right here underneath the shoulder blades, kind of in the mid back. Sometimes you can actually physically feel the tenderness there when you've been stressed or when you've been dealing with physical illness or just whatever it is, all of the things that deplete us in the deep winter and beyond. And so it can be really nice to surround this area a little bit and focus some breath there. So once you're settled, wherever it is that you're comfortable resting, go ahead and take a nice deep breath in through your nose and maybe out through your mouth. And then let's just explore what a deep breath feels like today. So of course we can direct the breath into that back of the lungs area, that mid-back sort of tender adrenal area. But also just to take a little bit of space with it. So I really do believe that the body actually is really good at bringing itself back into balance. And so much of the practice that we're doing is not like telling the body what to do or controlling the body, but rather trying to get out of its way so that it can do whatever it is that it needs to do. So the invitation here is, with that intention towards a deeper breath, see what that means to you today. See how that feels in your body. So it might be relaxing your body so that the breath can be unfettered. It might be trying to direct the breath into the ribs or even down into the belly and the pelvic floor. Just see what feels right for you. In and out through the nose or the mouth is fine. I'm going to offer sort of an undirected, deeper breath just for our first few moments on the mat here. And noticing how that might be changing as you're exploring it. Noticing the ground beneath your body, the earth. Maybe taking a moment to acknowledge the land that you're on and your relationship with that land. And then noticing if you're wanting to stay a little bit longer, which is perfect. Again, just listening to that instinct from your body. Otherwise, we'll start to climb into some nice gentle movement. So cat and cow can be done on hands and knees or in a seat. I'm going to come to hands and knees myself. And before you begin the full cat and cow, if you are coming out of child's pose, you might want to take a moment to tuck the toes of one foot back behind you and just stretch out the back of the heel. And then do that on the second side. You can do a little pulse there as well. Just releasing the knees if you were in that little bit more of a compressed shape. And then when you are ready, placing the fists or palms on the mat, under the shoulders, knees under the hips, inhaling to find a little bit of a back bend shape, and exhaling to round. And again, this can be done in pretty much any seat. It's just a spinal movement. And I do really like to do this one with the eyes closed because it doesn't matter what it looks like. And when we close the eyes, it helps to direct our attention inward to what we feel. And then we can notice if the body would like to add on circles or side to side motion or rocking of the hips. There is no right or wrong here. So just continue to be in that place of exploring what it feels like for you to move today. So maybe you've been doing your yoga really diligently. Maybe you haven't practiced in a while. Maybe like me, you're kind of recovering from something. And just noticing, you know, what that feels like, what's going on in here. And all that noticing, we're just trying our best to do that without judgment. So we're trying to do that just by observing. And then some of you may want to come into downward dog here. So if you'd like to do that with me, you can walk your hands forward a little bit, tuck your toes and lift up your bum. And then we can bend one knee at a time. Think of a little bit of a bend in the elbows, and we're just trying to sort of work the weight back towards the legs. So there's different ways of thinking about that. One is pushing the floor forward with the hands a little, but try to keep the shoulders nice and deep into their sockets. So you're not tensing your neck, ideally in downward dog. We sort of get better at that as we practice it. Helps me to hug the arms a little together. And then here's a favorite variation of mine, widening the feet about mat's distance, soft knees, weight really pressing back, and then you can lean your weight over to one side. And then over to the other. I find that just feels so nice, kind of on my back and hips. And then in your own time, we'll walk our feet to our hands, coming into standing forward bends. Feet hips distance, or they could be wider. You can rest your elbows on your bent knees if your lower back likes a bit of support, or you could hang down. I often like just fingertips on the mat, or they could be on blocks. Do make sure you have at least a bit of a bend in your knees. Let your weight lean back into your heels, and just to the degree that it's possible for you, relax your neck and head. Maybe even bob the head a little, shake. Maybe sway your body, or even bend one knee at a time. Again, we're just gently exploring. Okay, and then we're gonna roll up. So if rolling up is not safe for you, bend your knees, hug belly in, look forward and rise. That would be if you have a sensitive lower back. If you're comfortable to roll up, lean back into your heels, gather in your belly, and try to let your upper body be really flat as you roll up one vertebrae at a time. This is supposed to feel good. Most people really like this. Just imagine that your bones are kind of finding their own stacking. Just coming to that place where you're standing with as little effort as possible. So you might roll your shoulders, you might kind of shift back and forth. Okay, so I want to show you guys kind of a nourishing breath that we can do with our movements, especially if you are feeling some of that depleted energy. This can be quite nice. So some of you know this, it's Ujjayi, but I just teach it a little bit differently than you sometimes see. So let's try it this way. You can place your fingertips together just at your low ribs. And then as you next inhale, see if you can spread your ribs so much that your fingertips actually separate and lift a bit. And then as you exhale, the fingertips will come back together. And again. So without even thinking about it, I'm making that whispering sound at the back of the throat that happens with Ujjayi. And this is really a diaphragmatic breath. So we're trying to pull the breath up into the ribs and wide and really fill up those lungs as much as we can. Okay, you might also try placing the hands around behind you, kind of in that adrenal area. And again, see if you can get the hands to lift and separate. Obviously they won't as much in the spine, but again, we're just seeing if we can find that opening and lifting with the breath. This is super good to keep in mind if you're pregnant as well, just creating all that space. This was a really key breath for me when I was pregnant. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this? We're going to fold it into some movement. So feel free to unmute if there's anything coming up for you. Okay, so as we move into sun salutation, we'll just notice that naturally when you inhale and reach your arms up to the sky, your ribs are going to lift and separate. So it's going to be actually easier to get that nice big inhale. Okay, and then on the exhale, there's a natural contraction. So that's why usually with sun salutation, we're inhaling to open and exhaling to close. So that's how I want you to think about this. Each breath and movement there, it's not that we're putting them together, it's that they're already interconnected. And we're just really working with a kind of a moving meditation in that sense. Any questions about that? Okay, and if questions come up, of course, ask them. Okay, so we'll just try simple half sun salutations to start. We may build on it a little. So next time you inhale, reach your arms wide and up to the sky and really just let your ribs lift and expand. And as you exhale, bend your knees and hinge forward from your hips to reach the floor. Lengthen up halfway, press the fingertips into the shins and really use that to kind of press your ribs away so that your belly is actually lengthening. And then as you exhale, melt and fold. Relax the head, bend your knees, look forward, rise all the way up, lift, expand, fill the lungs. And then exhale, hands come to the heart. Let's keep practicing that. Inhale, lift, widen, rise. Exhale, dive, generous bend to the knees. Halfway lift, think of pulling the ribs away from the hips. So your belly actually hollows slightly as we inhale here. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, look forward, rising all the way up. Hands to the heart. Good, let's take a couple more. Inhaling. And dive. Inhale. And soften. And the knees rising up. Hands to heart. So let's keep going. Okay, I encourage you to go at your own pace. So really not rushing the breath. So really take your time. And if you skip a step or something, don't worry about it. Okay, it's just inhale up, exhale down. That's all we're really working with. It doesn't matter if you forget the halfway lift or something like that. No worries. Just try closing your eyes and just breathing with this Connecting with your breath, letting it fill you up as much as feels good for you. Okay, and we'll just do that together for the next few moments. I'm just going to take one more full round for myself. Take your time. When you return to standing, just take a moment to feel. You might be in stillness or you might be fidgeting, and that's perfect. Just notice what's happening for you. And then let's add on to it a little bit. We're going to do some lunging back. So if you want to place like a blanket or something behind you so you can easily put your knee down, you can do that. We can always do a high lunge too. Don't worry too much about it. Okay, so let's inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky like we've been practicing. And then exhale and dive forward. Lengthen your heart forward and up. And then step your right foot back and lower your knee down onto support if you need. You might even just be double folding your mat. High lunge is fine. Okay, it works just as well. Reaching your arms up to the sky. And this time, let's explore some cactus arms. So as you exhale, bend your elbows and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Take the arms forward, palms facing you. Finish your inhale, reaching the arms up. And then as you exhale, bend the elbows, hugging the shoulder blades together, opening the chest. A couple more like that. So the palms face you as you reach up, just helps the shoulders stay back. Beautiful. Okay, next time you open into that cactus, let's stay for a beat. Keep drawing the tailbone down, opening the chest. And then let's come into a little bit of a twist. So what I'd like for you to try is taking your right hand across your left thigh and then just gently opening the left arm. So this is a little bit more of a chest opening version of a twist. It's not going to be super deep in the spine, which is great, again, especially for pregnancy or lower back stuff. Maybe try turning your palm up and just see, how does that feel? Good. Inhale, soften. Come back through center, and then let's bring the hands down. You could put them on blocks if you have blocks. I'm untucking my back toes and straightening the front leg. So we've got a little bit of a bend in this front leg. We're just going to release the hamstring. And again, we can do this with breath. So totally fine to be still, but if the breath is working for you, here's how I like to do it here. On the inhale, I'm lifting and widening, trying again to hollow my belly a little bit. And then on the exhale, I'm just folding in. So that belly hollowing, it's not that I'm contracting my core, okay? There's a little bit of core happening, but it's not that I'm kind of tensing. It's actually just that lift, that diaphragmatic breath just naturally draws my belly in gently and lengthens my spine. Okay, so we'll just take a few like this. Think of drawing the left hip back, maybe pressing the heel slightly forward. You might feel a little more juice if you do that. So nice. Let's take one more deep breath here. Okay, and then you're just going to gently bring your left knee back with your right one so that your knees are close. They don't have to be touching. And then I'm going to offer a camel breath. Okay, so here's what that looks like. We're just going to lean back, rise up onto the knees, reaching the arms up to the sky. Maybe there's a tiny bit of a back bend there. And then on the exhale, we're coming down and kind of thinking of child's pose. So you don't have to come all the way into it, but just sort of leaning down. Hands could be forward or back. And then in your own time, rolling up onto the knees, heart to the sky. And exhale, sort of thinking of child's pose, but it might even just be sort of tapping your head down like that. It doesn't have to be all the way down. And let's just take one more of those. And this is one of my favorite hands-free vinyasas. Really nice for wrist issues. Can be really nice for pregnancy too. And then why don't we take a little pause in child's pose and just receive that work that we've been doing. Hands again could be forward, or I'm gonna have the hands down by my hips, which is a little bit more, I'm not quite finding the right word for it, but it's a little more nourishing or calming, or it has a hibernating kind of feeling to it. Curling up, cozying up. Okay, when you feel ready, let's make our way back up to the top of the mat, and we'll just do that sequence on the second side. So you can come through downward facing dog. Maybe you want to take a beat there, maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to check in with whether or not it feels different after having done that sequence on one side. And then you bring the feet forward. And again, rolling up. So just to clarify, the rolling up is nice to do when you have the time. When we can really lean back into the heels and keep the core engaged so that the spine can kind of release. It's not wrong or bad to do the rolling up in the sun salutation, but it's usually when we're doing the sun salutation, we bend the knees, look forward, and kind of rise up like that, as opposed to rolling, just because there's less time and it feels nice on the back to do it that way. So see what works for you. Okay, let's again reach the arms up to the sky. Diving down that long spine, long belly, wide ribs. Lengthen up halfway. And then we'll step the left foot back and put the knee down onto some padding. Or again, if you're more comfortable in high lunge, you're welcome to do that. It's a bit more strengthening, a little harder to sustain over a long period of time. It's just different, okay? And then as you exhale, bending your elbows into that cactus shape and pressing your hips a little forward. Okay, turn the palms towards you. Inhale and rise. And bend, drawing the shoulder blades down the back. Palms towards you and rise. Good. Taking your time. Really full breaths. Let's do one more and hold. Okay, try to draw the shoulder blades, bottom tips of the shoulder blades together and down. Press the hands a little bit open, squeeze your left bum and press the hips forward. And then take that left hand across, or to the inside is fine, and just gently stretch that right arm open. So thinking of opening the chest here, not overly twisting the spine, but just trying to get that opening in the right side of the chest. You could try opening the palm to the sky and just see how that feels for you. Inhale, and then we'll gently bring the hands down towards the earth. You might be using blocks. Tupperwares turned upside down actually make pretty good blocks, just if you're working with household stuff for future reference. So you can straighten out that front leg, just keeping at least a little bit of a bend in the knee. We don't want to lock it. My back toes are untucked and the hip is just right over top of the knee. And let's keep working with that breath. So as you inhale, thinking of widening and lengthening. And as you exhale, melt. So little trick with this breath. Sometimes the shoulders try to go up. It's not that we're trying to get the shoulders up. We're trying to get the lungs really full. So imagine that your heart is moving like past your toes and the shoulders are softening down as the ribs are lifting and widening. Maybe you're feeling stillness and you're not really wanting to do the rise and fall, and that's perfect. Trust your body. Some days are still days. I think in the deep winter, more days are still days. And that's normal and healthy. Beautiful, you guys. Let's take one more deep breath here. Exhale at the mouth if you'd like to. And then we'll gently tuck the right foot back so that we're back on the knees, and we'll try that little camel breath vinyasa. So we're rolling up to standing on the knees. Again, here you can take that rolling action if it feels right for you. And then diving down, maybe tapping the head or coming right into a child's pose. See how it feels. Don't worry about what it looks like, doesn't really matter. This is really more about the energy of feeling the heart opening and closing. There's a little bit of surrender, supplication feeling in this little movement. I'm opening my heart and I'm letting go of what I can't control. Let's just do a couple more because that feels pretty good. Beautiful, you guys. And then next time you come into that child's pose, let's again just take a little rest there. So you might want to widen your knees a little bit and bring the toes to touch. Hands could be beside your hips or reaching forward, or you might need them, the fists underneath your forehead, which is fine too. Again, breathing into that adrenal area, just pausing, taking a moment to receive. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, let's make our way let's take our bellies for a moment. Okay, if you're not on your belly today, you can sit on your heels, okay, or do hands and knees, either's fine. Let's take a couple of little cobras. And we're just gonna start with the cactus arms, just nice and simple. So palms are down, Pressing the tops of the feet down, engaging the legs, pubic bone. As you inhale, lift your heart gently. And as you exhale, gently fold down. Okay, and if you're seated, just taking a little cat and cow here, okay? So thinking of opening the chest and gently closing. Okay, and then next time you come up, you might pause in the back bend. Just staying up, shoulders down, heart lengthening forward. And then gently release down onto your belly, or just rest if you're sitting on your heels. Relax your heels apart. Take a moment to breathe into your belly. And then we'll do a little chest opening here, and you can absolutely do this and seated instead if, again, you're not on your belly. So you can take your fingers to interlace behind you. You could hook your thumbs, or if you have a strap, you can hold on to it about hips distance apart with the palms face down. Again, press the tops of the feet down, engage the legs, pubic bone presses down, then hug the elbows, lift the heart, and push the fist towards the heels. Just getting nice and long here, opening the chest. One more breath. And release. Again, you can take your forehead or your cheek down, just relax your bum. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of integrating stuff here. I'm hoping not to spend too much time here so that we can actually be in a restorative pose for a minute. So just go ahead and roll onto one side. I'm on my right side. I'm actually just gonna tilt down a little bit here and come a bit closer. We'll do just a little bit of work with the outer hips. We'll do our butt core, our very important butt core. So bottom knee is a little bit bent, just for support. Top leg goes straight. Top hand can also help to support. Your head should be comfortable. You can put it on a pillow or on your straight arm if that works better for you. Flex your foot, turn the toes down, and then press the heel back and up, like an L or a J shape. Bring it down, and then heel goes back and up. Just about 6 of these. I'm notorious for counting and talking at the same time. Really good. 1. And then either keep going for another 6 or bring the leg forward about 45 degrees, turn the toes a little bit down, and we're just doing up and down here for about 6. Just reminding these outer hip muscles. Whoa, that's tough for me today. Definitely don't have the prana for butt core today. Last one. Oh, nice work, you guys. Relax. You can take your soft fist, just pad out that outer hip, just give it a little energy, a little circulation. And then take a hold of the top of your foot. Let's stretch out the quad a little bit, pointing the knee down towards the bottom of the mat. Tailbone gently draws down. Flare the toes and press the foot into the hand into the foot. One more deep breath. That's it. Gently release. And let's come to the second side. So you can roll on over. I'm going to flip so that you're not looking at my back. And again, supporting your head, natural curve in the lower back. Bottom knee is a bit bent, so not right up with the hips, but pointed down a little bit. Top leg straightens, foot flexes, toes turn a little down, and then the heel goes back and then up. Try not to turn your toes up to the sky. Keep them pointing a little bit down so that you're really using your outer hip, not your hip flexors. Good, and that's about 6 there. So let's keep going if we can, bringing the heel forward. If that's too much, just do the previous version. So it's just up and down, about at the level of that bottom knee. Last 2. And 1. Nice work. Relax. Take that soft fist, gently pat out the outer hip. Give it some love. And then holding onto your foot. Point the knee down. Think of tucking the tailbone a little bit, squeezing your bum, pressing the foot into the hand, resisting with the hand. Should be a pretty good stretch right in the belly of the thigh there. Nice deep breaths, nourishing breaths. One more. So good. Let's gently release that. You can give it a little shake if you want. And then let's roll onto our back. So we're just going to do, again, nothing too crazy, just a little bit of abdominal core just to remind those muscles that we want them to work for us. So we'll start with pelvic tilts and we can take it from there. So as you inhale, expand your belly and relax your pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, scoop your belly button towards your spine and flatten your back to the mat. Inhale, tilt your pelvis forward, relax belly, pelvic floor. Gather in pelvic floor and scoop your belly button back towards your heart. This is totally safe for pregnancy, as long as it's okay to lay on the back, which generally laying on the back is okay for short periods. Feel free to continue to work with this or come back to a neutral spine. Okay, and then relax on your inhale. And as you exhale, gather in, so that same muscular contraction, but keeping the spine neutral. You can place your middle fingers on your hip points and your thumbs on your low ribs, and imagine those 4 points trying to gather together. And then as you inhale, lift up one leg, and as you exhale, put it back down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Good. So we'll keep it at this today. And I just want you to think about the 4 points staying really still. So we're really just going slow enough that we're being careful not to wobble the pelvis and core around. So we're really trying to activate those stabilizer muscles. Yeah, and if this is feeling like too much, just going back to the pelvic tilts. And if it's not feeling like enough, I encourage you to stay with it anyway, because sometimes it's really good to just go back to those subtle pieces and make sure that we're working well and effectively in those subtler places. It doesn't need to be dramatic to be effective. We're just gonna do one more round. You guys are doing great. That's it. And then let's relax. So you can take soles of the feet together, knees open wide. Nice deep breaths into the belly. Consciously relaxing the pelvic floor. And I'm going to take a nice long stretch here, just arms up over my head, legs out long. Feel free to join me here if this feels good. Thinking of really stretching out the midline. And then we're going to come out to a seat. So I encourage you to roll to your side first and then rise up. You might want to have a seat on a little soft prop, like a low cushion. This is what we would use it if we all had the same props in class, but lots of things work. Little couch cushion or something is fine. So I'm going to take a seated forward fold hip opener if we can. So I'm going to give you a couple of options. So one is Sukhasana. So I've got my right leg crossed in front of my left, and I'm just trying to work the feet a little bit closer to the knees so that they're ideally stacked if they can be. So this is perfect. Some of you have a bone structure that will allow for double pigeon. So it's the same idea, feet and knees are stacked, but a little more directly like this, okay? So feel free to be crossed or stacked. And in either case, if you have some extra props and your knees are kind of, if there's sort of some space, you can fill that space with props, which helps to make sure the hip flexors aren't doing this work and you actually get the opening in the hips. Okay, and a little trick, where'd my blanket go? If you're doing the Sukhasana version, you guys, I hope you have a blanket at home. You can actually take the blanket around the cross and it gets that weird ankle discomfort out of the way. So that's a little secret I like for that one, okay? So feet as active as they can be, ideally flexed, fingertips beside you, roll the shoulders back, and imagine your collarbones lifting as your shoulders drop. Feel free to stay here, just tipping forward a little bit with your hips, or you can fold right forward if that feels good. And again, as long as your lower back feels safe, maybe we're allowing that adrenal area to open a little and just breathing into it, softening the head and neck. Okay, and then let's gently rise back up. You can release your legs, and I usually like to take a windshield wiper here. You can also do a little leg shake. And then when you're ready, we'll come to the second side. So left leg in front of the right, or whatever your second side is. The two sides might be totally different. Usually the two hips are a bit different or a lot different. So again, you can take that blanket around the ankles, kind of like that. Or you can stack, you can use, doesn't have to be blocks, just sort of whatever you've got there, to find this knees and heels kind of close together, as close as is reasonable. There should be painless in the knees, okay? It should feel like a good opening in the outer hips. And if you're feeling it here, you need more support underneath your legs, because that means your legs are pulling to try to prevent harm. So do put your props underneath, or take the cross, or both, if you are feeling that like my hip flexors are really working, okay? Sitting up nice and tall, shoulders down, collarbones lifting, and maybe this is where you're staying, maybe you're folding a bit or a lot. And it is okay to round your spine. Sometimes we get this idea in yoga that we're never supposed to round the spine. That's not true, we can, but we want to be gentle with it if there's vulnerabilities in the spine. And we also want to make sure that the thing that's happening is mostly the hip opener. So the longer the spine is, the more we hinge from the hips, the more we'll actually get that stretch. I'm feeling it just on my left side really right now, but kind of outer hip, sort of outer thigh region is sort of what we're generally looking for here. And if it feels okay to soften and fold, you're getting that hip opener without pain. Maybe your head could relax. Maybe you can even rock your head a little. Deep breaths. You don't have to do the Ujjayi breath like we talked about before here. Maybe you're letting your breath move down into your belly, as long as your back is feeling safe. But try to continue to allow the breath to be deep. Nice. And then when you're ready, gently roll yourself back up. There's no rush there. Again, you can step the feet apart. Give them a wash. And you can also extend the legs and give them a little shake. So I'd like for us to come into a restorative shape from here. If you have a bolster, that's ideal. If you don't, you can use a pillow, you can use a block, you can use a cushion, you can use a blanket, just anything where you can elevate your upper back a little bit. And if you don't have anything, you don't have anything. That's okay. You can just lay down on the ground. So I'm gonna have a seat in front of my bolster. And if you are lucky enough to have quite a few yoga props, these are pretty easy to find in Sheep actually, and they're pretty handy. So you can grab these out in the world. They have them at London Drugs, I think. You can place them underneath the thighs. You can actually use that same blanket trick here too, just over the ankles. It gives a little extra support. And then laying back, so if you do have the bolster, it's relatively soft, so it should feel good. But it depends on which one you have. If you have the circular one, you might need to just push it back a little bit farther. Either way, you may need to elevate the top edge a little bit with one of those blocks or two of those blocks. Or you might like to put something underneath your bum. So again, if we had all the props in the world, there's lots of stuff we can do, but it doesn't really matter that much about the props. It's more so the principle around props is bringing the earth up to meet your body in a position that's comfortable for you so that you feel supported, okay? You can let your hands rest on your hips or out to the sides, just sort of whatever feels comfortable for you here, and hoping that the feeling you're getting is maybe a gentle stretch for the heart, back, belly, but it should feel really pleasurable, comfortable. If your legs are uncomfortable, you can just straighten them, no problem. And I want to give you guys a little bit of quiet so that you can feel those deep breaths and receive them. You don't have to do, again, the ujjayi that we talked about earlier with the ribs flaring open. That's really nice in some contexts. We don't always want to do that. Sometimes we want to really let the breath extend into the lower part of the belly, like right down into the pelvis. So maybe here you could focus on relaxing this area and just allowing the breath to move as far down into the torso as you can. Imagine yourself melting over whatever props you have or into the earth. Notice if there's any tension in your shoulders that you could just drop. Let your eyebrows widen. your tongue and your jaw soften in your mouth. Receive. And you're welcome to stay here, or we'll take a more classical Shavasana. So, or non-classical Shavasana. So again, you could rest here, maybe straightening your legs, keeping the prop underneath your spine. You could roll over to one side and find a more comfortable shape to end your practice in, to rest in. So if you like legs up the wall, you could do legs up the wall. If you like laying on your side, you could lay on your side. You could take Shavasana, so that's no props. Maybe the bolster under the thighs if you have one. You can just kind of flop out and just stay with that quality of receiving. And in Shavasana, we don't need to do any conscious breath. So if it feels good to continue to focus on your breath, you can, but you can also just let your mind wander. Just really let everything rest, including your mind, including your intention. Taking a moment to notice how you're feeling right now. And if there's anything that your body is wanting to communicate to you right now. And if there is, just receive that. And if there isn't, that's okay too. And when you feel ready, you can start to deepen your breath and bring in some intuitive movements. Maybe the fingers are wiggling. Maybe there's a stretch. You can hug in your knees and roll over to one side. And especially if you did stay in that heart opening shape, you might want to just take a moment to kind of close the heart to curl up. And eventually you can rise to a seat that's comfortable for you and place your hands somewhere that feels right. So maybe palms over the heart or hands together. And then gently bow your mind to your hands and just take a moment to honor and acknowledge whatever it took for you to get to your mat today, to get to your practice today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage that is with us in our practice. To honor and acknowledge the land wherever we may be practicing today. And to honor each other in this community. Thank you for sharing your practice with me.